In this video, we dive into the feature that sets TiMax apart from any other spatial renderer, the playback engine and the timeline view. As with the pan space, we navigate to the timeline from the toolbar in the main window. The timeline will be instantly recognizable to anyone who's previously used a DAW such as Pro Tools or Logic. All 64 tracks of audio playback are listed on the vertical axis, and time is displayed on the horizontal axis. On the left, we can see a range of functions for controlling both audio and show control automation. In this video, we will only talk about the audio automation functions, with show control being covered in its own dedicated video. To start, let's drag an audio track onto the timeline. We can drag and drop from the file browser of our machine or from TiMax's internal file browser, accessed via this button in the bottom left corner of the timeline. For this video, I'm going to add a file from the local machine. As audio is stored and played back from the SoundHub, you will see this progress bar appear as the file is transferred over the local area network. Should we need to, we can adjust the scale of the displayed waveform via this slider at the bottom left corner of the timeline. We can manually move the playhead around the cue by clicking on the time indicator at the top of the timeline. We can use the transport controls at the top left of the timeline to play back the cue without relying on the cue list. Should you need to change the zoom levels, we can do so with the outermost sliders at the bottom and right-hand side of the window, controlling horizontal and vertical zoom, respectively. Currently, our show file contains a single cue. However, the timeline can display all cues in a file simultaneously. To see the whole show file at any time, you can press this button at the bottom of the window. With up to 64 channels of playback per cue, and an almost unlimited number of cues, this can be useful to quickly navigate through very large projects. Now that we have an audio track on the timeline, we can demonstrate the functions of some of the pick tools shown on the left-hand side toolbar. The first item is the cursor, which is our default tool. With the cursor selected, we can interact directly with the audio files on the timeline. As you'd expect, we can move an audio file by clicking and dragging it along its track. When an audio file is selected, we get this inspector window, providing playback options. One powerful feature of the timeline is the ability to loop an audio file. Here we can select in and out points for the loop, determine how many times a loop will play, and even set a crossfade time at the loop point. Below the cursor tool, you'll find the mono and stereo gain point tools. These will be familiar to anyone who's used fader automation in a modern DAW. If we select this tool from the toolbar, we can easily add gain automation by double-clicking on a track. Now we're automating the input fader level for the associated channel. Below the gain point tools are the image definition and pan space point tools. Let's start with the pan space point tool, as this is extremely useful for editing spatial movement paths on the timeline. Any pan space points we've created in the pan space will automatically appear in the timeline. It's easy to change movement timing by clicking and dragging these points on the track. You can also copy and paste these points using the standard keyboard shortcuts. If you have the corresponding pick tool selected, rather than the generic cursor, you can also multi-select a group of pan space points and stretch or shrink the time between them using the control that appears. Finally, it's also possible to move a pan space point to a different subspace, right from the timeline. This can be achieved from the drop-down menu in the pan space point editor window. For more on subspaces, please watch the video on spatializing audio. The image definition tool will cause a channel's matrix crosspoints to change to match the selected image definition. The image definition tool features are very similar to the pan space point tool, including copy, paste, and timing-related functionality. For information on all the show control tools in the toolbar, please watch our internal show control video. We hope you're excited by the creative potential offered by our timeline and audio playback engine. In the next video, we'll cover building a cue on a TiMax SoundHub.